Good morning. I've been thinking about the idea of the Antichrist. When I listen to some, very Christian channels, like quite fundamental Christian channels, even maybe, I hear all sorts of different ideas of if you run into the Antichrist, this is how he'll be, right? And a lot of what they're saying I agree with, but then they throw in little weird things like if somebody starts to call scripture metaphors or even pretend it wasn't exactly how it was said, then that's the antichrist and stuff. And I'm like, well, come on, you guys, take it easy there. All right, well, not everybody is trained on the Bible, but they intuitively learn the moralities of the Bible. Okay, so if they find it easier to read the story as a metaphor or a symbolism in that fact rather than as a fundamental truth, and it still gives them meaning, then would you call them antichrist for that? No. So I'm questioning uh, some of these ideas and of what the antichrist would be. But if I think about on a spectrum, right, is that we're human beings, we're just center where if we go into hedonism we end up going a little more towards the antichrist consciousness, and the more we make the righteous choices we go towards Christ consciousness. Like that's a real simple way of thinking about it, and that's where you can respect somebody for some things in their lives, and cannot respect and show no respect to certain things that they do, right? So you can have somebody being just a situational antichrist, right? Because um, if Jesus is the truth and the life, then then the antichrist would be the opposite of that, right? But I also don't think it's that simple either. You know, if especially if we're talking about people that are trying to be idolized, for example. So this is where it starts to peek over towards the to the antichrist side, and it dips lower, right, towards the pathological. Like, and I mean, it's we always want to move as far over to Christ consciousness as possible, as far as I'm concerned. But what would be the idea of like a somebody that they don't know? That's the thing about it, is they believe in whatever story they're telling themselves. A lot of these people, it's delusional, like or it's a ego inflation of some kind. So like a lot of people, you'll see that they see the world's in turmoil and they're like, I want to help people, right? And so they go straight into the healing fields, and they tell everybody their intent is because they want to heal people, but then they start to just get us following around them, and then you start to realize is that their intent wasn't just to heal people. You know what I mean? It might have been part of it, you know what I mean? But the true intent was to be idolized or to be seen for the greatness that they are, right? And that is not Christ consciousness, and that's dipping into the antichrist consciousness. So I'm more on the thought that Christ is Dionysian, and what I mean by that is, Dionysian's like the polarities on crack. It's when things need to be dark, they're dark. So it's a situational thing. So Jesus Christ isn't this floating, virtuous, perfect, utopian being. No, by far, and that's the misunderstanding I think of Christ consciousness I think more of it as a Dionysian thing, like it when he needs to cut somebody's ideology in half and tear them into pieces. So that's the idea of Dionysus, and tears them into pieces and puts them back together again, right? It's like an exorcism, right? So truth and the life, right? Well, truth, it does tear people apart, right? It's kind of an ego death. If somebody can find that thing inside you, that the right words, simple words to say that just rock you to your soul to the point where you'll hate that person, right? And that's the ego. So that's why Jesus was killed, because he was slicing through these people's sickness, right? I think that the Antichrist would be somebody that's always saving the day, right? So they're always, they're like coming in as the bright shining star. Like the idea of what some people think Jesus is just that the Buddha walking around. Well, you have to be very careful with the Buddha kind of feeling people, because they can be very they this is an issue, and I'm not saying all of them, because there's really are amazing Zen Buddhist practitioners that can stay in the moment. But do can even somebody stay in a Buddhist state if there is a war to fight? And are they really virtuous if they're not fighting the war to stay in their Buddha? You know? So on the large scale of things, what is an antichrist? That's the one we should be worried about, right? I mean, well, no, we should be worried about the ones in our communities. We should be going after them. But let's just say if there's the big antichrist, right? And there is reason we should think about that. For example, I think we can create somebody into the antichrist also, because you have to remember is somebody that's moving towards Christ consciousness can gain amazing powers. But if the powers that if we're a giant force, right? So we can kind of push him in certain directions to need to do certain things. And I so we kind of can make somebody into an antichrist, and but the thing I look at Bill Gates as more of an antichrist, because he just he's always there to save the day, but with stuff that's not we are seeing now is not necessarily saving the day, is it? It's doing the opposite. And we could actually probably, after all of this, when we have a lot of time, we're going to look at all these weird immunal things and cancers and stuff. And I think we're going to start to discover a lot of this novel stuff we've been doing to our bodies through people like Bill Gates, the guy that's been the savior for people. Like literally, people love that guy. I heard Joe Rogan say he's done the most for mankind than anyone I know, something like that, right? Well, did he really? That is like one of the ultimate ideas of an antichrist. Somebody that you're following and following and following, right? So we followed, all of us in our society have been following a pharmaceutical kind of antichrist, right? And he's the face of that. He's not the only one, right? These companies like there to heal people or to profit, right? It's the same thing I was talking about is the individuals here too, is like about the business. Are you here to heal people or profit? Or heal people or gain power or idealization, right? So we should be keep our eye on the ball right now too, because we see the conservatives coming in to save the day. I don't trust any of these news networks. And to be honest, I've been watching Fox. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe I'm like watching Fox and like coming to the same conclusions as that. Like I'm like, what? You know what? But you have to be very careful with the person that comes in and saves the day. They prove themselves to save the day, right? And you see them as an angel, and they wait till you got them. You're idealizing them again, right? So I'm watching it. Watch out for things like Fox News, because they can turn and flip to the Antichrist just like that. And watch, okay? Like and this is a thing we have to watch out for the church. The church is starting to let down all of their dogmas so they can bring in more people, right? And more people means more power again, okay? And if they can keep people in this tribalism through against their other Abrahamic religions, we have to keep our eye on the ball too about the pathologies that are going to be passed around in Christianity, and maybe Judaism, in all the religions, right? Islam, because we should see the conservatives have had a push against Islam in general. Well, I'm telling you, there's good in Islam and bad in Islam, good in Christianity, bad, good in Judaism. You know what I mean? In Buddhism, there's good and bad in every single thing. You know what? Parasites are the ones that come in to the light and pretend they are, and that's what the Antichrist is. So I can say I'd say there's a lot of priests and people high up in the churches bishops and Pope. These kind of people, these are very much like it. They could be Antichrist people that I don't know much about. I'm not going to make any judgments, but these are things we have to think about, right? So what should we do though about this? Well, you know what I think we should do is pay attention to what things we do in our life that are Antichrist conscious rather than Christ conscious. If somebody's telling you a story and you turn around and make it about you, right? Because you just felt uncomfortable because, wow, instead of praising them and encouraging them for that, what they just did, that's your ego, that's Antichrist consciousness, right? That's that's opposite of pushing truth and life into that person. The truth would be, and a caring person would love you for the fact that you're moving forward. So like every time you get envious and decide to turn on people for that, those are little situational flesh choices. Every time you make a choice to do something that is hedonistic, and you do it, if it's a little, like for me, it's drinking beers. I'll have a beer or two, and it's a kind of hedonistic to me. So I know that it's going to affect my health. So I have to kind of take some time and clean myself up after. You know what I mean? But I dip into the hedonism. But you have to call yourself on that at least, so then you can control it, right? And I've been hedonistic with sex in the past, definitely. And it's these are things we have to. The only way to get control of the dragon and put it on a chain, because a dragon on a chain is Christ consciousness, right? So maybe you can't even become fully, like, maybe the darker, you have to go really far into the darkness, like people like myself that have, to finally find the light. So let's look into our own hearts for the evil, but also keep an eye on the ball, right? Don't start idolizing any of these other news networks that are all of a sudden on your side. Much love.